The new directive, which has reportedly caused anxiety among the officers of the disciplined forces in the country, has directed the abolishment of the exchequer-funded lunch subsidy program by the end of the current financial year and usher in the new pay-as-you-eat system by the 1st of July 2025. A letter signed by Major General Mohammed Nur Hassan on the 17th of this month showed that a committee established to go through the merits and demerits of the subsidy program presented the recommendations to the Service Commanders Committee meeting, which brings together the Kenya Army, Kenya Air Force and the Kenya Navy Service Commanders, held on the 29th of October 2024, recommending that, quote, the transition from the existing exchequer-funded lunch program to the pay-as-you-eat payee system necessitated by the inefficiencies and ineffectiveness of the former system. The memo further directing service commanders to prepare cost-effective cashless payment systems, including M-Pesa paybill numbers, to pay for the soldiers' meals. The communique stating, quote, the system is to be deployed no later than March 31st, 2025 to facilitate meal bookings and payments, ensuring accountability and efficiency. Note that the payee system is scheduled to be operational on July 1st, 2025. End of quote. The new directive reportedly causing jitters among officers, a majority who are junior in the service, who will now have to dig deeper into their pockets to protect the country. However, the ministry has defended the plan, which seeks to save about 2 to 3 billion shillings per financial year, saying, quote, the decision to transition from the exchequer-funded lunch program for service members to pay-as-you-eat payee has been necessitated by the need to streamline budgetary allocation, efficiency in use of government resources, facilitating access to a variety of meals that suit individual preferences, and alignment to best military practices both regionally and internationally. The ministry adding that the exchequer feeding system has proved non-cost effective. It does not offer flexibility of time, neither does it provide the convenience of a feeding place, and further negates Kenya Defence Forces service members a variety of meals to suit different individual preferences. Consequently, the system is faulted for loss of working hours due to long queues and duplication of ration scales when service members are assigned duties to different camps. The statement further details that the funds allocated to the exchequer feeding program will be utilized to improve the existing messing facility infrastructure and acquisition of catering requirements. Ration cash allowance was introduced into the Kenya Defence Forces in the year 2000 when provision for other meals, including breakfast and dinner, was discounted, and the allowance has undergone several upward reviews to cushion the personnel against inflation.
By the leaders don't want to be servant. You know, as a leader, you have to be a servant. You have to accept to be a servant.
First, there is something I said about leadership. What we have, the majority of what we have today are not leaders. They are imposters. I'd use the word imposter. They saw an opportunity.
Opportunities.
And the other people kept off. So because they were the first ones to come forward and they had more money than any other person, they pretended they are leaders and they were put in position. So that is basically my own thinking. That we are using the wrong title. As Prof has said, leadership is not just a word. Leadership is mentorship. You need to mentor people. You don't have, when you are a leader, it just shows you don't have to go reminding people, look here, I'm so and so, I hold this position. No, that is not the right way of leadership. And the results come. We see the results. For example, I'd ask those who are thinking of maybe, we are going to elections hopefully in 2027, although I saw some senator of Narok saying those who are talking of 2027, they don't know what they are planning. I don't know what they are planning. But by 2027, I'd ask people to ask themselves this question. One, are we better off than we were before 2022? If the answer is yes, vote for Ruto again. If the answer is no, it means you get an alternative. 2, are commodities cheaper today than they were that time? Are we able to service loans easier than we
used
could
to,
5 years ago? And such like questions. Those are the questions that show whether the economy is growing or not. And this is the challenge we have as a result of having imposters in place of leaders. I know of very many leaders who have shied off from getting these leadership positions because some of them think maybe they don't want to get dirty, or because people who are there are so they do. You know, we have grown into associating leadership with the opulence, the people who are driving the latest cars, who are giving out the most money in harambes and so on. So even the common person is not able anymore to define. I think, Prof, you should write another book on the real definition of leadership.
Actually,
Make it very simple.
What you are saying,
Yes.
what you are saying is very interesting because I've said leadership is about followership.
Yes.
Now the question is, why are some people following these people? Like, look here, Gachagua, isn't it? Now all of a sudden looks very good. Isn't it?
And I said this in one of the interviews.
Yeah,
The day you see people start following Gachagua, know that as a society we have lost it.
So now the people also have a role in defining leadership, not in determining. Because, for example, when you are following somebody just because he has given you more money in a funeral, isn't it? But you don't ask yourself, where is that money coming from? What if that money was utilized better? Like you see, for example, in Luo Nyanza and in Western Kenya, where the tour has just ended, when someone pays you to come and attend a rally, already they should have voted themselves out of office. Did you see anywhere where Jesus paid the people to attend his rallies?
No.
And if you go to some countries, leaders don't pay for people to come.
In fact, people demand
Like now,
for them to come.
you say, for example, the inauguration of Trump. How many of those people are paid to attend?
I don't think. In fact, there is
So
no.
we are having a challenge that even us, the citizens of Kenya, we have to ask ourselves, which kind of citizen am I to determine which kind of leader do I want to have, isn't it? And whom should I follow? Like you see, for example, in Luo Nyanza, I'm very afraid that someone with almost no brain, but with money, will sell much better than a
that's true.
professor.
If
you're saying you're a professor and you can't give
You
people
can't give-
handouts,
yeah.
you are useless.
Yeah.
So then why are these people complaining that they are bad leaders? So the alternative leadership we are talking about is not a one of convenience. It's not one of whereby you want to please people. If we offer ourselves as alternative leaders, and Kenyans don't see that as something that can bring change to them, then we wait again and see what they are going to speak again in 2027 after the election, isn't it? In fact, one reason why I encourage professionals is this. If good people don't join politics, bad people will. Because they'll see the gap you talk about and impose themselves. They say, Dan fears being Mheshimiwa because he fears of the dirty politics. So let me join. And then because I know how to play the dirty politics, I'll win. So why don't Kenyans also open their eyes and realize that let these people just make their noise, but we can see who can lead Kenya, who has the leadership qualities of Kenya. Someone who has been there to sacrifice for you when it matters. Not someone who only comes in, say they have been betrayed. I told the people who have been betrayed the most is Kenya. Because they have elected presidents after presidents and no results. Governments after governments. They are more betrayed than a betrayal of being, you have been privileged to become a deputy president for 2 years. That's enough. Some Kenyans are looking for a contract for 1 day to earn bread. Who has been betrayed more?
And they
can't. In my phone, I can show you messages. Niangalia hata kazi, hata ile na volunteer. Kuna Wakenya wanataka hata kuvolunteer just to work There are some men depressed at home. I hear some saying men should be men. But a man can't be a man when you don't know how kids are going to eat in the evening. So we have been failed by our leaders to put us there. In America, where Trump is speaking, if you are a man who is qualified and can work, and you can't work, you are given unemployment compensation to take money home. For us, when you are a man who cannot work, you are useless to the government and to your wife and to your family. So the American man is not the same as a Kenyan man. A Kenyan man is actually in trouble. I know men should be men born, but being a man is very hard.
It is very tough. And Prof, you brought out something. I'm saying it is very tough because it is something I've gone through. You know, after when we went through the election process and some of us were promised big things, we were made even to leave the jobs we were doing. We had hopes, but we got nothing. I'm telling you, there are people, I'm better off. There are people who went through depression. Yeah, it was not easy. There are people who lost their families. I don't want to tell you that my wife actually left me because of politics. But look, we are here.
Yeah.
Now, there is something Prof has mentioned about the Western tour that I think I must also maybe... Do you know?
It's your area. You want
it
to
is my area. I come from there and I have a lot of relatives who grow sugarcane. And normally, even the company I work for, they pay bonuses once a company has made a profit. Our people are told they are going to be given bonuses, and the sugar sector has been making losses for the last over 20 years. 2, there is no law to support that kind of bonus. So I was just asking myself, Prof, you are an economist. I might not have enough information on this. Do you think it is practical? A sector that has been making losses, then suddenly you appear and pay bonuses?
Now, first of all, have the suppliers for the sugar cane been paid? You know, a bonus is what you do after everything else has been done. Let's assume, Bon, you are an employee of Havana Media, isn't it? And your salary has not been paid. Then your boss says, let me give you a bonus. Is he insulting you or telling you?
That is an insult.
That's an insult, isn't it?
Yeah.
So have the employees been paid? Are they actually back to work? Are the farmers who farm the sugarcane been paid for the sugarcane supplies they have had, isn't it? Now, there are other people with obligation like debtors, isn't it? Creditors, creditors. Have the creditors of those sugar companies been paid? There are some of those sugar companies that were given money by the banks, isn't it? How does a bank who has given that sugarcane company to operate feel when the employees are getting bonus while their funds given is not working? And these banks also have staff to pay. They also have costs to pay. How does this Catholic Church that are owed billions of money in pending bills feel when their pending bills have not been paid and somebody is giving a bonus? You're getting me? I'm a DVC at Uzima University. Uzima is owed 1.5 billion shillings in pending bills of the healthcare staff we trained with the contract in government who has not paid. It's not just Uzima. We're online with all university leaders. KEMU, I can reveal because they said it. They are owed 3 billion shillings in pending bills where they trained medical staff that were being hired by the government. The contract was signed by the government has not paid. How do they feel when somebody gets bonus? Are you getting my point?
I'm getting.
But also, let's come here. Students in the university, they have not received their money for the university funding, isn't it? Some of them, they call it tunainama. Unajua kuinama?
You don't eat like lunch hakuna tunakula.
Kuinama inamaanisha lunch comes unainama. Lunch passes, isn't it? So kama wanainama, alafu wanasikia, some people having bonus means you have gotten what you need to get, and then you are getting something on top.
Yeah, ni kama asante.
Asante, shukran. So how does it feel doctors are going on strike, isn't it? University dons are going to strike. Teachers want to go on strike. Nurses want to go on strike. They are due. They are due. What that means, their due right has not been paid. Then somebody is getting a bonus in the name of a campaign. Now we talk about leadership. How can that person qualify? Let me end here, Bon, a little bit by finishing by saying the following. When we came out and said that we need alternative leadership, we're being told that it is only those who have been there who needs to be leaders because they have experience. Then I asked myself, experience for what? Experience of giving bonus when dues have not been paid. You know, before you give charity, let me say you are a charitable person, isn't it? You are giving charity to the society, yet your house help has not received a salary, isn't it? Your kids have not gone to school.
Yeah.
All the debts.
Your parents,
yes, your parents are living in shutters, isn't it? The people who borrowed you money to set up the business through which you are getting the bonus have not been paid. But for you, you are giving bonus. So as far as I'm concerned, it's not economically sound. Then bonus of a sugar company need not be declared by the president. It is the board of directors that declares bonus, not a president. So is Mumia Sugar Company a public company? You get me? Now, I want to hurt you further. But this is now, let me leave alone the bonus because I don't want to talk about it. You've heard that we are having the return of the Kenya Sugar Board, isn't it? Do you know Kenya Sugar Board used to be led by Kidero when Kidero was the CEO of Mumia Sugar? There used to be taxes that are being paid by the farmers to maintain the Kenya Sugar Board, just to keep people driving good vehicles, nice offices and the rest. Now, in as much as we celebrate that the sugar belt is waking up now, in as much as we celebrate the coming back of the Kenya Sugar Board, we also have to ask ourselves, at what cost to the farmer? So there are taxes farmers are going to pay on which their benefit will go down. For example, if I tell you the one, we also come around the sugar belt, like you see in Ugenya, there's Ogola. The farmers there are being paid 3,000 shillings, 3,500 per ton. That's what they receive in terms of their sugar cane, isn't it? Now, in Brazil, the farmers get something like 15,000 shillings per ton.
So in Kenya, it's 3,000.
Yes, these guys are doing 15.
That is a difference of 12,000.
Yes. Now, let's benchmark. Because if you don't benchmark, you might think you're doing the right thing. Because members of parliament sit in parliament where the carpet is red, nice seats with leather, then they say the economy is doing well. Of course it's doing well. When you're sitting in parliament, the economy is doing very well, isn't it? But when you go to Garissa, Moyale, where people are living in dust and drinking dust, then the economy is not doing well. So if you compare with Brazil, there are problems. For me as an economist, I have written in the book, what is the solution to the sugar belt? Solomonic economics is clear. Brazil crushes 14 tons of Kenya crushes 14 tons of sugar cane to produce 1 ton of sugar. Isn't it? Brazil crushes 6 to 7 tons of sugar cane to produce 1 ton of sugar. Why? Is it because Brazilians are... We are not talking about the US, we talk about Europe. This is Brazil, which is also an emerging economy like Kenya. What is wrong with us? And the solution is there. The quality of the seed of the sugarcane we plant. You can research now and modify the sugarcane seedlings, isn't it? Secondly, harvesting time. You should harvest at the right time. If you harvest too early, you don't have rice sugar inside the sugarcane. If you harvest too late, then they go away. And some idiots there even burn the sugarcane is when they harvest it.
Yeah, it's when they harvest it,
Which, according to me, I'm not a scientist too much, but I believe when you burn the sugarcane, the fire has dried the juice, from the sugar, and therefore you have to crush more sugarcane to produce more sugar. Do you know why they burn them? No. Do you know why they burn them? No. They say they're chasing away snakes. Because why should they ban them? They say there could be snakes inside the sugar plantation, so they ban them to chase away snakes, isn't it? What do Brazilians do? They spray the sugarcane. So we can spray. Even with the helicopter, you can spray. Even without it, you can spray. So what are we doing? Because somebody has eaten the money for spraying. Now we ban because fire is free.
Yeah.
When I motors,
and then the sugar cane.
So we have seen that you have to harvest the sugar cane at the right time. You have to harvest the sugar cane, the quality of the sugar cane. Nowadays, you can even go to a laboratory and modify. You see the flour industry. There are people who are just there about breeding. You can breed the right sugar cane to produce the right sugar that you want, isn't it? So those can be done. We have a lot of laboratories in Kenya. What are they doing? They're just busy with the people being sitting in the board. What are they doing in the board? That's how I told you. We need a young person to sit that board and ask the question they have never asked. Do you know, if you have been sitting in this room for a while, everything looks all right, you can't see anything wrong with it. That's why we're talking about replacing the tired and retarded leaders, because they have looked at Kenya. Kenya looks so normal to them. That's why Gen Zs were very mad, because they look at, if they see chaos, Gen Z sees theft, they see disorganization, they see incompetence, they see no service delivery.
And they also see solutions.
Yes.
We have solutions there, but we are not giving them a chance to.
But the person who has been there sees, Kenya ni Kenya too. Siapa ni Kenya too. Hizi vitu tumeona. Sivyo? For them, everything is so normal. But for us, everything is so wrong. Like William Ruto appointing Kabogo as CS ICT is so normal to him, isn't it? When he found Linturi as Minister for Agriculture, it was very normal, isn't it? Now, you appoint Justin Muturi as in charge of the public service. Do you know the public service, according to governance, is the fulcrum of government? Because public service, we talk about public service day. You've seen those days. All the services for government is done through the public service, isn't it? Now, if you have a minister who don't even believe in you, who goes to the media to oppose you, and he's the one holding the fulcrum of your services to people, then you have to run on top of the cars to explain to people why you're not performing.
And then,
so according to me, we see everything wrong, but for them they see everything right, and that's why the only way to do it is to replace them. Yes, replace them and change. Remember, I'll give you an example. One government entity called KCB, Kenya Commercial Bank, was government entity 100%. Kenya Telecom was 100% government, isn't it? Then Safaricom was hived off from Telecom Kenya, isn't it? And somebody said, so everything was wrong with Telecom Kenya. For example, if you want to get a line, you have to bribe somebody to install a line for you. The corruption was too much. You understand? KBC was the same. You needed a license to own a radio. You know that? So someone came and saw all the nonsense and threw them out of the window and brought in fresh air. So KCB came and said, a board member cannot have 2 terms. That during Martin Odurotieno, they came out with the issue that if you sit for 2 terms, you go. So 6 years maximum, you go. A new fresh blood has to come in. Then that brought the ideas. Look at where KCB is. Now, go to the same thing of Safaricom. When Bob Colimo came there, Michael Joseph, they saw everything that was wrong with it. It's still a Kenyan company, of course, sometimes owned by Vodafone also, but that brought the freshness that we want, isn't it?
Some change.
And now, Joshua Ogola became the CEO of KCB at under 35 years, isn't it? He moved the customer base from 2.3 million to 17.5 million customer base, isn't it? Purely on technology, not brick and mortar. So Martin was there to stabilize the bank and prepare the bank for takeoff. So he didn't increase so much of the customer base, but he just focused on building a stable bank in terms of governance, in terms of management, in terms of structures. Joshua Ogola was his CFO. So when Joshua came in after being his CFO, he knew where the fulcrums were, isn't it? And he just pressed them. He knew the hot button. Like, for example, Bond, do you know the hot button of your girlfriend or your wife? When you press that hot button, that woman becomes the woman you want. So for us, we know She will complain, then you just press the hot button. So, does the William Ruto know where the hot button for Kenya is? Does Kabogo know the hot button for ICT? Does Kagwe know the hot button for agriculture? Isn't it? Does Justin Muturi know the hot button for public service? Isn't it? Does Murkomen know the hot button for interior? These people don't know. They'll never know.
They've never
and
known.
There's a problem with thinking you are. The ignorance has no medicine. The first medicine is to recognize you are ignorant. Or at least the first medicine to recognize you don't know. When you don't know that you don't know, you'll never know that you don't know. And therefore you'll never know. And therefore you are actually condemned to perpetual ignorance. But by knowing you don't know, you'll try to know. And therefore you have a chance to know. Does the Kenya Kwanza government or these leaders know? For example, when I saw, I'm not criticizing because, opposition never criticizes fellow opposition. I'm not criticizing Gachagua and Martha Karua, isn't it? What was the big news in that meeting? You tell me. Do you see anything new that you've heard? They have some new thing. It's just that we have been betrayed. They said they were both running mates. So Gachagua was running mate to William Ruto. Martha Karua was running mate to Raila Odinga. Now Raila Odinga with William Ruto is together. Then Martha Karua and Gachagua are now together. So it's like this was how to separate the presidential candidates together and the running mates together. So now the running mates together wants to compete with their presidential candidates. My goodness.
You see, now Prof has reminded me there is, when I was, I used to teach English literature. And in one of the books, there was a character called Mr. Stockman. I know you remember
yes.
that.
Yeah.
The one who came up with the statement that he who knows not and knows not that he knows not is a fool. That summarizes what Prof has said.
Repeat that. Repeat it again.
Okay. He that knows not that he knows not is a fool. He who knows not and knows not that he knows not is a fool. That was the statement. So it is true. Most of the people are in office because of their connection without necessarily knowing what they are supposed to do in that office. And this is the culture we must move away from. We start putting people in places based on their capability and ability, not how much money they have given us, not how much they have contributed to our campaign, and not because they are close to us. You see, when you end up with people in influential positions, and I keep saying this and I'll say it again, if I want to know you, I look at those who are close to you without mentioning names. Looking at all these bad in quotes decisions that the government has been making, sometimes I look at who is the closest person to our president.
Like who even advises the president that he needs to tax even the
Exactly, to tax the military, for example. Moi was, they start from Jomo Kenyatta, come to Moi, come to Kibaki, come to Uhuru. None of them ever thought of taxing. Okay, we know there are countries that tax their militaries,
but with purpose.
A few. Kenya is going to be the first country in Africa to try to tax their military.
Maybe Prof.
Is it tenable? Maybe, I don't know.
Prof was in Kibaki's government. Maybe they were they planned.
No. In Kibaki's government, I was an economic advisor. And Kibaki was trying to bring a certain culture that professors in good institutions can advise him but stay there, not join his government. So I can tell you, there is no single day I enjoyed the trappings of power. I was only enjoying the trappings of knowledge, not power. So can you imagine, every month, on Wednesday or Thursday, it's either day, we used to meet Kibaki in Muthaiga. And the brief was very clear. If there's anything you know the president knows, don't tell him. Isn't it? And you come up with an idea that you know how to execute. We had what is called why. So every question must you answer the question of why? Isn't it? So why do you want to do this? Isn't it? Of course, you see now, Simon had came up with this idea, but that was his way of thinking before, Kibaki's way of thinking. The second thing is, what do you want to do? So why do you want to do this? For example, when we came up with the issue of structuring the Vision 2030 into a structure, the question was, I was asked why. I said, Vision 2030 is so big that if you don't have a structure, it will just remain a document. So then told, okay, that is why, isn't it? What is the structure? I said EMDA. What is E? Executive order. So, Mr. President, every time we read the Visions 2030, give an executive order of what you want to be done. Then shut up. The second thing, we have a ministry, EM, ministerial statement. So Minister for Education, for example, if you gave statement that we want free primary education, that's an executive order. So shut up. Then the Minister of Education picks up that and says, now, what is the ministerial policy on basic education, where Noah Wekesa was sitting? Isn't it? Now, what is the basic education policy to be done to bring free primary education? So they write the policy, then promulgate the policy. So that is the minister. Below the minister, we have the PS. So D, departmental. Departments under ministry are headed by a PS, isn't it? So the department on that ministry comes up with an execution framework of the ministerial policy, isn't it? After you execute the ministerial policy, after you come with the execution framework under the department, then there's an agency to execute it. The agency could be TSC, Teacher Service Commission, isn't it? The agency could be HELB, is an agency. Just like if you go to roads, we have the Minister for Roads, isn't it? Under the Minister of Roads, there's Ministry for there's a Ministry for Road Construction, because roads and transport is wide. So there's somebody doing the construction. So the construction will now work with an agency called KENHA, KURA, isn't it? KERA, to now do the construction. So the president says, executive order, I want 10,000 kilometers of road being added to the road network. Then you shut up. So then you don't have to say, oh, now let me go and open road in Dongokundu. No. Now, after you know you want 10,000, so the ministry will come up with a ministerial policy, isn't it? It has to have a budget, because see, if you don't have a budget for it, then there's no complete policy. Where is the money going to come from? So that's why you can say, for example, you see the budget from Kibaki never used to raise alarm of the finance bill. Do you know we're having alarm of finance bill today? Because somebody just come with taxes which are not linked to a ministry and has not come from a ministerial policy. So ministers cannot defend a tax they don't know. Did you see ministers of William Ruto coming to the media and they can't defend the finance bill because they don't see how it relates to them? Somebody is increasing taxes without knowing where it's going. But Ministry of Kibaki, the ministerial policies have a budget. So when you're doing the finance bill, it comes from there. But here, we have a country whereby IMF is the one telling the people how they need to do their budget. But IMF is not in any ministry in Kenya. And therefore, they are trying to defend IMF budget and they don't know how it came by. But in Kibaki's ministry, every minister could explain why this budget needs to pass. And that's why there's no animosity. In fact, the members of the ministry, the ministerial officials, could deliberate with the minister to understand what they are trying to do. So in short, what I'm trying to say, for us, we are never enjoying the trappings of power. We're enjoying the trappings of knowledge. He was very clear. In fact, he always said, Fred, trappings of knowledge. Whoa. So the only thing you could enjoy was not even a photo. Not even a photo. This is not a media appearance, isn't it? You come, what is important, what is in your head. Not saying today, you know, nowadays those photos people do for PR. Kibaki never did them. He will tell you, Kwenda. Now, Wende. No, I'm telling you. So for us, the only thing you could enjoy was that when you're talking to the president, he's in a Modaiga. So there could be nice chicken, but that's all. But of course, also the other thing which I enjoyed the most, when I went to class, I never went to class like somebody who has read Michael Porter's book. I went to class telling people how economy works and how can you do public administration. That's why I had a lot of impact on people, isn't it? You saw me the other day with James Mwangi.
Yeah.
I also have another very great admirer. He was the former Director General of Kenya. He's called Peter. Peter Muhidini. He was the Director General of Kenya, also Director General of Kura. So I used to train their board. I used to do strategic plan for them. So he used to enjoy that I knew how government planning is done. And you don't come with theories. So when I go to class, I'm not teaching book work. I'm telling you what the president has approved and not approved. I've said something stupid in a committee, and so that cannot work. So I say, I can't go to class and teach what cannot work. I've met the Minister for Finance, so I used to have the privilege of meeting them. You meet a Minister for Planning. Like, I think that's the time I met, this is a very good anecdote, when I met Minister Oparanya, when Oparanya was in charge of planning, during the post-election violence. You see, during the post-election violence, no Kenyan wanted to be counted. Because even there are so many NGOs, just like now Ruto is crying, they came up in arms against Kibaki. And Kibaki said, what do we do? Because we want to do census. The constitution is clear, we need to do census after every 5 years. We will not escape it because we have just fought ourselves to death.
Yeah.
You know, when we had just fought ourselves to death, 2008, 207, 208. So 209, we were to do census. Now, all surveys showed that you should not put tribe in the census, so we will not know your tribe. So it was more of propaganda. ODM was that time saying that Kenya Kwanza, PNU government, the admission of Kibaki, once used the census to tilt the numbers.
Let the numbers.
To inflate the numbers. So there were so many rumors. And Kibaki was not this kind of person. So he told me, Fred, I know you come from the lake when it was Ziwa. But my work here is not about Luos, Kikuyus. Kibaki was very clear. My work here is you go and think clearly as an academic. Don't think about your tribe and give me the solution. So when I say, this is a difficult task. So after consulting, I discovered that in the statements from Oparanya and all government officials, people were resisting their statements, not the census. Remember when there was a census, when some Kenyans in Uganda, in Busia said, if you close bars for census, tutaenda kukunywa Uganda.
Yeah.
You see, they were told, you will be counted, you like it or not. We shall close bars to count you, isn't it? Yeah. They say, okay, count us, but we shall be in Uganda drinking. We can cross the border. So, it seems that people don't know how social license to operate is powerful. When people want to do something with you, it's very important. So then I came and told Oparanya, give me some budget, and I sat down to do communications. And I said the issue was the communication, not the census. So tukatoka na a saying. Did you hear some saying says, nimehesabika, nimetambulika? Did you hear that one? So people are the ones who feel they have been counted, they have been recognized. Not you telling them, I want to recognize you, I want to count you. So the why was people are resisting. The what was communication strategy, isn't it? And how was how to ensure that a Kenyan is the one who wants to be counted, isn't it? No one has ever given me credit for that, isn't it? So Kibaki was, if you talk and you work for him, first, don't take credit. Everything, Kenya takes credit. It was amazing, but it was also sometimes struggling. Sisi Wajaluo, tunapenda ijulikani.
Yeah.
So,
but you don't say.
We don't say. Tunataka ijulikane, but Kibaki was very clear. Yeah. He never wanted to have a big name. Kibaki wanted the work, not him, to be seen. Also, remember the issue of Thika Highway. I can tell you the people who went to Kibaki telling Kibaki to name Thika Highway, Kibaki Highway, and say, excuse me, hiyo njia inaenda wapi? Thika Highway. Because he started by saying, hii njia inaenda Mombasa Road, inaenda wapi? It's going to Mombasa. So we called it what? Mombasa Road. So hiyo tunajenga inaenda wapi? Thika. Call it Thika Road. But people came and say, Kibaki, will put your stamp of authority. You'll be immortalized. Which immortalization? Who can be immortal? Only God, isn't it? So Kibaki was like, forget. So why we bought into the idea. We saw the boss himself, he doesn't want. So then who are you?
Yeah, to force it.
Kula kuku yako, weka knowledge, rudi klasini. So with all that sitting next, imagine you are sitting next to the president, then you go to teach in a class in Strathmore. It's humbling, isn't it? And don't talk about it. Because then you take credit. And if
But
he
you
hears...
are now talking about it.
No, you see now, this is past.
There's a past.
That time you couldn't say, we are now deciding how Kenya will be. Hautaenda huko tena. Because it's happening. You never drove there. You are picked. So if they don't pick you, not be seen. So ukienda irrelevant, hautapikiwa. I can show you so many people now who are making noise. They know how the economy is run, how they were picked twice and no more picking. For me, I was picked until I was picked, until he left office. So what I'm trying to say here is that we need leaders who are very clear about what they want and how they want to get there, isn't it? And the team they have to put in place to get there. Like I've told you, I'm very clear about the age. I'm very clear about the net worth. I'm very clear about the competence that I need. For example, you see the book proposes the knowledge-based economy, Solomonics. I'm telling young people, there are areas an old person cannot compete with you. Find those areas first. One is sports, isn't it? Can Gachagua compete within 100 meters?
Can't.
He cannot, so it's impossible. So he can't try, so you beat him, isn't it? Another area is ICT, isn't it? You see AI, where we can put you looking like you are gone, isn't it?
Like you are gone.
So that one you can't beat us. You can't even shut that AI down. You don't even know how it works, isn't it? You can only shout in the media, like you said, hot air, and it's gone. The other thing is I talk about sports, ICT, arts, the creativity. Like now, have you seen how creative Kenyans are representing the current administration? Have you seen the Kasongo analogy, isn't it? Have you seen how, like I saw one which was very beautiful, that the Kasongo now becoming a warthog has entered a certain hole, then there are lions and cheetahs waiting for That is the Gen Z vote in 2020.
And then someone, there's another one, they are saying that tungependa kukusaidia lakini hapo wewe tunajua tukikusaidia kidogo kile utatufanyia is different.
So the creativity, the intelligence, the innovativeness of the young people, you can jump, you can shoot them, you can abduct them, you can't take it away. And that's what for us we're saying, that instead of abducting these people, bring them on board. Let them solve for you the share-the-shift issue. The funding model, the mean testing model doesn't work. I'm an economist. It can't work. Do you know why? The mean testing can't work because you're using it in only one part but not the other. Why am I saying so? For example, talk about the university funding model where you have band 1 to 4, isn't it? Now, the university funding model, the mean testing model gives the rich students, rich families, go to band 4, isn't it? Or band 3. But who is paying taxes? It's them. So the person paying the highest taxes has no advantage to the taxes they are paying. Let's say you earn 200,000 shillings. They deduct your PAYE, isn't it? They cut some VAT from you when you're buying stuff, and you're the one buying most of the things, isn't it? Then after that, when you now want to take your kid to school, you are the one paying, and the people who are not on salary are being given for free, isn't it? You run a business. You're a billionaire because you are trading with the government, isn't it? But you're not earning a salary. So you pay less. So when you go to the bands, you're doing better in the bands because they don't look at your business, they look at you. So you're doing better in the bands. So you find that your kid will qualify for band 1 and you're a billionaire and you're a businessman. For mean testing to work, you have to start it from childhood
to
adulthood and to the rest. Like, for example, sorry to use this word, some can say from inception to resurrection, isn't it? But some crazy professors like can say from erection to resurrection. So if you don't apply it from erection to resurrection, mean testing doesn't work because it becomes biased. In some parts, it is applied, some parts does not apply. So it must apply from... But you can say, Do you know that you can say what you want, but as a scientist, as an economist, life does not begin at inception. It begins at erection. Because at erection, there's life, isn't it? It's just about now putting the pieces together and life begins. So it's not inception. It's from erection to resurrection. And when you apply mean testing across the board, then it is more uniform and more equal, and therefore you get better results.
Actually, the correct one, in my view, it is not. There are so many erections that don't result in life. And go for ejaculation up to.
Honorable Dan, your last statement.
No, that's worse. That's okay.
No, if that one is worse now than yours.
Yeah, man is polite. Man is polite.
Yours is polite. Now this one is hard. You know, I remember he was complaining with the opening statement when I was asking that a foolish human is very happy with his mental.
And we end there.
Your last statement.
I don't have a last statement on this one. I think let's just be wise. Maybe the next round, let's choose real leaders. Let's not choose imposters and pretenders like we have always done. And we have a lot of them. I hear even Prof is willing and ready. Let's support him. He has good ideas. And there are many others. We will put them together to make a kanisani, pime tuone.
And then now they decide
but I know I can tell Prof this for a fact. Money is a big factor in our elections. So we need to look for funds if at all we are going to beat these people. Because, the reason why we are having this money budgeted for and nothing is done is because people are hiding money somewhere so that in 2027 you go and tell, they are very clever, by the way. They wait, you go and preach to people about all the good things you will do and so on. And the night before election, they come with the money. Give me your vote, give me your... You wake up tomorrow, people have changed their minds. So that is the biggest challenge we must always try to fight.
Right.
But all the same, all is not lost. We as Kenyans, we are stronger. We survived the post-election violence of 2007. We survived the Uhuru leadership. We are going to survive the Ruto leadership. And whether he jumps up or down, 2027 will come and people will decide.
Prof?
My closing statement is that let us encourage anybody who has a vision to lead this country. Let everybody be encouraged, because as a decision-making expert, your choice is not better than your best alternative. Your choice is as good as your best alternative. And the more people come with ideas, the high chances that we shall get somebody who present the best alternative. And that best alternative, we should all go and forget about our ambitions and support that best alternative. So all is not lost. Let's come together. The second thing I want to say is that Kenyans, let us like due diligence. A proper due diligence will give us a good lawyer, a good leader, and will give us the alternative leader. Like, for example, if Fred Ogola talks about alternative leadership, have I ever offered any alternative leadership anywhere? Have I demonstrated that capacity to do it? In China, we have a company called Agricultural Bank of China, ABC. It's Agricultural Bank of China. They give loans to farmers. And lending money in farming, where climate is involved, risks are very high and unpredictable. Can you imagine borrowing money to someone who tells you, I'm going to plant maize in Voi? Do you know sometimes it can be sunshine throughout the year that there's no thing, so it's a risk. But Agricultural Bank of China has one of the highest repayment rates. Do you know why? Because they do proper due diligence. They don't even think about the weather. They think about you born. They look at nursery school. Did you used to attend class? Did you do assignments? Did you misbehave? So what did your nursery school teacher talk about you? They don't think about you now because now umekuja na suti. Not that in the bank nowadays they go with this, hey, this man is
He must be a great.
No, but before that, were you putting on a suit?
Yeah.
Did you even put on school uniform?
Yeah.
Were you attending school on time? Were you the late ones all the time? So if you're attending classes late, most likely you're going to pay your loan late. Then they go to primary school, check again the record. Then they go and check your high school, like now Kakamega High, isn't it? Then after that, now they go to your university. Who are your classmates? How do they think of you? Then they go to your employer. How are you working? Once they do this all due diligence, then they ask your neighbor where you're living, isn't it? Do you beat your wife? For example, someone who likely beats their wife, most likely they'll default. Because watapigana na bibi, then the wife will go away, then he has to chase the wife again, and the money could have been repaying in the bank now is spent. And when he's chasing the wife away, the wife is helping in farming. Who will be farming? And when you're chasing, looking for your wife, who is taking out the crops in the shamba? So you see, they do proper due diligence. 2027, let us look for proper due diligence. And let me encourage the Gen Z, contrary to your issue of money, young people, let us vote for our fellow young people, even if you have not eaten their money. Tuseme sijakula kwako, unataka kula kwake, yeye ametoa wapi? Na wewe kama hauna, utapata wapi kama hajakutengenezea? So let us not talk about sijakula mkono yako. Umekula mkono yake, nani amekula mkono yako? So let us first of all give these young people with proper due diligence a chance. Let us not doubt and say everyone has cheated us. If you don't know who is cheating you, then you don't even know who is telling you the truth. And therefore, give the people a chance with proper due diligence. Let us use all institutions. Go to church, look out, ask their pastors. Some of the leaders you are crying about, they were glaring evidence that they were thieves before they came. There was glaring evidence they were killers before they took office. There was glaring evidence that they were actually the main problem of misleading this country before they came. They only gave you some marketing materials. They branded themselves. They looked young. When they took office, they are very old. They are walking like they can fall now. But when they were campaigning, they look energetic. And I'll tell young people, not everybody who walks like a young person, dresses like a young person, speaks like a young person, represent the spirit of that your young age you have. Listen to their manners. Listen to their behaviors. Look at their action. Do they act like a young person? Do they think like a young person? What's their software? Let us use AI to get information about everybody. The other time I was running a workshop whereby people were arguing on the difference between memorable and lifelong. And AI was able to tell us which one was more accurate. So even AI can now dig, for example, Boniface, if you say you have a PhD, AI can answer that question in no time. Anybody saying they're ethical, just Google ethics, whether ethics and them can sleep on the same bed and have a baby. Some of them, it will be a barren thing. Yeah. So let us use due diligence to come up with the right results. Yeah. And should we get it right this time, we'll be able to transform our country, and that's what I call alternative leadership.
Okay, as I wind up, I would like to say this, that we are here because during the time that there was a campaign and all that, most of the people read the cover of the book. Like the campaign was like books, some of the politicians were like books. Some people only read the cover, and then most of the people read the introduction. But very few, just very few of the people read the content inside the book. So it's upon us now to know what you're going to do next.
Boniface, yes. Before you finish, this is lovely. Yeah. There is what they call 4 levels of information. There's what they call McDonald's version of the truth, which is what you read in newspapers and you see in the news. That is only like a cover page, isn't it? And then after that, there's what they call now information, which is now published in research, isn't it? That information is published. They are in very many articles. You can read them. They are in Wikipedia. They're everywhere, isn't it? That's the second level of information. The third level of information is where now you take what you have read and you deeply go and now research to corroborate whether they were correct or not, isn't it? That's the third level of knowledge. The last, but most important, is how you apply now the knowledge you have in making daily decisions. Because you can actually do research and found that Fred Ogola is a thief, isn't it? Then you say, huyo ni mwizi wetu, sivyo? Then you elect him. Then you see the opposite results, isn't it? So application is the most important level of knowledge because it changes things, changes situations. And I agree with you. Let us not remain on the cover page or introduction, but let's go deep using the 4 levels.
Gentlemen, I really like to appreciate you for showing up. And hopefully, if things are work on well, we'll be doing this like we normally do it. It's every Monday. I really appreciate. Thanks for your time, and I know you are rushing somewhere. Thank you very much for showing up.
Thank you.
And Prof,
thank you.
Yes.
See you again. These are 1 million. Today it was not 1 million.
10
it was 10 million. Until we meet again, I've been your host, Boniface. So bye bye.